now I'm going to go to Instagram and go live. So we're live on the other streaming platforms. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook.
Wow.
I have them all connected.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty popular.
StreamYard, they're pretty amazing. Okay, so now we're on Instagram too. So the Instagram is the only one that you have to do separate. Like you have to go into a different thing. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Amanda Marino. This is Recovery Solutions, where I love to highlight awesome professionals in behavioral health and other scopes, and bring them on. My favorite is to bring on clinicians and to educate people on different things. So Dr. Louise Stanger and I have done this when I first started. So we thought it was time with her book coming out, her new book, to do a second one. And if you could just introduce yourself, Dr. Louise, to anyone who doesn't know you, and tell us about your new book.
Hi, I'm Dr. Louise Stanger, and I've been around a long time in the behavioral health field. And I'm so excited, Amanda, to be with you and see how Next Level Recovery has grown and blossomed and doing so many wonderful things for so many people. Well, I'm excited to be here today because I actually have a fourth book coming out. It may be uploaded to Kindle today. I'm not sure. It's a little bit different than my first three books, and in the respect that it's sassy and it talks about how to unleash your potential when you're aging. I do have the proof here, and it's called Reflections on Aging from the Sunset Marquee. And
love that.
Maybe those of you that don't know me know that one of my most happy places in the world is actually West Hollywood and the Sunset Marquee.
Love that. And I know the picture you sent me, I was like, wow, that is a sassy picture. And I love that vibe for you.
Yes, well, actually, the book was done in conjunction with a world famous photographer. Her name is Cheryl Fox. So you're going to see a lot of very sassy pictures in there. But it's also, when we think about our field today and we think about integrative wellness and longevity, this is sort of a prescription, so to speak, on how to unleash your potential and age with some sass and dignity and joy and celebrate yourself.
I absolutely need to get this because I am at that place where I have a kid that's about to turn 19. I have a daughter in middle school. I'm 43, so I'm in that part where I think this book will be like a total handbook for me.
Yes, it is. And it's fun. It's 6 quick chapters. And, one of the first chapters, let the music. And you have to know that I like rock stars. I like Tina Turner. Can't wait to hear the audio version. But it's really let the music in, be active, reflect, which we have to do to go, talk about the tough stuff. Meditate and celebrate. And so it's just a way to take a look at life in terms of what it has to offer and what you have to offer, and do that challenge.
Love that. I love that. So what did something come up that propelled you to kind of write a book in another direction, or something in your life that was your inspiration to do this?
Well, yes. So I think that in our lifetime, we have different things. I talk a lot. I just was at a retreat in Martha's Vineyard that I facilitated, and I talked about rupture. And there's a psychoanalyst who is a wonderful woman who talks about, when a mountain changes, it erupts and does different things. And I think at different periods of our time, of our life, we want to do different things.
Yeah.
And so it turned out that I was doing a photo shoot with a woman by the name of Cheryl Fox, who's a world famous photographer. You can check her out. She's amazing. She's probably more your contemporary than my contemporary. And we were shooting it.
I saw it.
And we were shooting it at the Sunset Marquee, which is really a place when I moved from San Diego that I found my groove. I mean, I have stayed there. I have enjoyed there. I have done interventions there. I have met families with there. And there's something about it that reverberates my soul. Mm-hmm. And while we were shooting, I said, what am I going to do with all these great pictures. First, they were to update my website. And then all of a sudden, it was if the scenery, my brain as I'm turning 78, and a muse hit me. And actually, the chapter titles came right to me on looking at this. And so that's what I did. And I also think that when we talk about today, we talk about integrative wellness.
Yeah.
And what's more important, I mean, obviously, both of us are experts in addiction and mental health, but what's more important than how do we learn to unleash our potential? How do we let go of this? And so I can't exactly tell you the pictures, the words, the music, they all came together and very quickly, because this book was actually written in about 3 months, which, I mean, Addiction in the Family had a very quick turnaround time because of its publisher. But this was sort of amazing. And it was as if at 5 o'clock in the morning, the muse just hit me. I just kept writing. We put it all together, tie it in a ribbon, and share it with the world.
Yeah. And I think that it's something that's not talked about enough, it's just not talked about, like how to unleashing your potential. Like many people struggle with that, with fear, right? Fear stops so many people. Obviously you and I are people that have the fear and we do it anyways. Because I'm sure there's things that you've done that you're scared of, and there's things that I've done that I'm terrified of, and I show up and do them anyways. And then, in discussing how to, like the aging gracefully and the things that are important, like I just don't think that's talked about enough as far as the wellness and the integrative care.
I don't think so. One of my favorite sayings, which I've used for years, is courage is fear that said its prayers. Now, obviously, and we use that a lot in recovery. We use that a lot with working with families. And I think that we're at a point where longevity, aging is taking a new look, and embracing yourself at any age and being able to develop who you are, what you are, because that's actually all that we're really doing when we talk about mental health, when we talk about recovery, is we want the person to be the person they're meant to be. We always say, I want you to be the woman you're meant to be. I want you to be the man you're meant to be, the father, the mother, the grandmother. And so this is just taken into a different thing, and it's a little bit more mainstream because the book is for everybody.
I like that. That's kind of, we talked about that at the dinner, that both of us were kind of like, doing some branching out too. You know what I mean? Like we have our fields, and then there's so much the rest of the world that doesn't have this information that we have in our fields, and we got to get it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I just had the privilege of being part of a retreat in Martha's Vineyard, which was really done by a charity called You Think. Christy Cashman is head of that charity. She's an award-winning author. And this was a retreat to unleash your potential to do it. And I was fortunate enough to be a facilitator along with Mark Kovacs. Mark Kovacs is not in our field, but he is an award-winning performance psychologist who's head of all of Canyon Ranch. He was a tennis player. He coached, he was the psychologist for the NBA Cavaliers. So that's a whole different way of looking at things, and how do we become who we are and do some bold and daring things. So, I did different things there. I might have been a facilitator, but I went in the Atlantic Ocean and did a cold plunge at night.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. How was that?
It was so much fun, but you couldn't do it without connection. Yeah. And connection is always the key to recovery. So there were more than us, but there were about, I'd say 7 of us that went in the Atlantic Ocean, but it was really the connection that allowed us to do it. Wow. I rode a horse bareback, and I don't even know how to ride. So I'm like Billy Crystal on a horse. And I got down the rear. But the whole thing was, what do we want to do that's different, and what are you waiting for? Obviously, once you have recovery, and once you have the gift of recovery, and once you have the gift of having your mental health, and what do you want to do? And even while you're doing that, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
But in order to do those things, you still have to have connection. And we know that connection is the key to recovery.
Yeah. And then that's like with, recovery and healing from anything, right? Because like this world has gotten much more broad because like not people that just suffer, as we know with substance, there's almost everyone's going through something. Something has had some kind of, whether it's directly to them or they're in their life. And, so many people, even just from like the whole COVID pandemic, have been traumatized. Like there's so many things now that are, areas for people once they feel like stability and get that sense of self, like it is like, what's stopping you? And I'm always, there's some that kind of weird fire inside me, which you obviously have. I will probably be just like you.
Well, I hope so.
Riding a horse bareback at,
yeah, 78. Okay. So, I'm at 78 this week. So I had to, I don't know what I'm going to do next, whether I'll go skydiving or what. But,
How do your daughters feel about that? Do they try to slow you down or do they push you?
Oh, no, my daughters are definitely innovative. And, my youngest daughter, Shelby Stanger, if you know the company REI, she developed the podcast Wild Ideas Worth Living. So she supped on the Amazon. I'll say it wrong. She surfed the manatees. And she has a book that came out last year by Simon & Schuster called Will to Wild, which is all about finding yourself within nature and overcoming adversity. And so she certainly would not be stopping me. She'd probably be saying, why don't you do more? My middle daughter, Felicia Alexander, as you know, is the chief financial officer of boxing gyms called Box Union and Title Boxing, which you might have there. And the way she got involved with that was she was your like sort of ideal Stanford grad, UCLA MBA, kind of thing. And she was in digital marketing. And she said, hi, Mom, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to open a boxing studio. But the truth of the matter is that when her father died and she was young, she was about 16 years old, and she went off to college at Stanford, she called me up one day and she said, hey, Mom, you know what I'm going to do? And I go, no, Felicia, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to be on the cover of Time. And I go, great, Felicia, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to be the first woman boxer. Well, let me tell you, she came home from school. We lived in San Diego. We went to a real Ray Donovan gym, at which point, of course, I had to suit up and box up, at which point she immediately got hit in the face, and that was the end of the boxing. But she used it to combat depression. And then, so no secret when later on, she's boxing to the beat, she's dancing to the music in the same way. And then my oldest daughter, who definitely is an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, but one of her companies, which I absolutely adore and love, and we'll have to send you a present, is Urban and the Mystic, which is very spiritual. And that is a lot of crystals, a lot of healing boxes, a lot of, like, Oprah endorsed her Love Bowl, but that is also her way. And she definitely has a story that says she was an adventurer. So I think part of it was, as a widow, even though I've been remarried very happily for many years, you came away with this idea that you have to be on your own, that you have to be able to create something. And each one of them is about as different as day and night, but they each in their own way have done a wild idea worth living, to take Shelby Stanger's words.
I love that. And that's kind of like the opposite of generational trauma, right? You're creating generational, like, live your life to the potential. That's what I heard in that whole story. It was like, all of your daughters are doing like incredible work, and like boxing is so healing. I remember I took up boxing, in a hard time in my life, like one-on-one, getting it out somatically. I was doing boxing, having someone come over for yoga, like the nature, like all of the things and the spirituality, all the things that your daughters are doing are like all the things that help you in life. That's awesome.
And each one of them has a different trajectory, and each one of them is different as day or night. But, but I think that and no one's saying that, part of my book is talk about the tough stuff. So make no mistake, life has been full of many different hiccups, some unexpected, some natural disasters. Like my heart goes out to all of Florida after, last week, and just how your ventral vagal nerve had to be so scared with the hurricanes coming, with the people you knew, and even being at that big conference that you were at.
Yeah, it was a
You
lot.
know, was like, am I going to get out of there in time? What really happened? So, and life is like that. But talking about the tough stuff, getting the help you need is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No. And like, what would be something that you would want to share with people that's like something tough? That is there something you're comfortable with sharing that maybe is in your book, or the tough stuff that like maybe somebody could relate to? Because I always like to leave people, give people things to take with them. And it's hard for people to talk about things. Like, it's easy for us, we're used to it, but is there something that comes to your
Well, I mean, my first book really portrays like falling up. I was born on a fault line of trauma. I had 6 sudden deaths in my lifetime, starting at age 7 when my father died by suicide. My first husband died suddenly, unexpectedly. My third child died of SIDS death. I mean, all of those things happened, and in at different crossroads. But along the way, I think the biggest takeaways, I always had people that could help me,
Absolutely.
weather that and help me grieve my losses, because I think it's really important. I think one of the most overlooked things is grief and loss work,
Absolutely.
because it's in order to do that to move on. In later life, aging certainly is a different phenomenon. I remember when I was a graduate student at age 20, and I read a book called The Person by Theodore Litz. It had this audacity, it had this sentence, it just reverberated in my brain. It said, when you age, you're no longer that well-oiled machine. You creak and groan a bit. I go, what are you talking about? I'm 20, I'm bright, I'm gorgeous. And
Right.
then you start growing, and then the wrinkles come and the things come, and you wonder whether or not you'll be relevant. And how do you find relevancy in the world that youth undulates before your very eyes and says, fix me, take me, do me. So,
Stop.
and during there's been many other iterations of tough time, possibly in work, relationships, sometimes partnerships went and go, and that was really tough. Ruptures, moving, all kinds of different things. Children can give you, they're not always perfect. You go through many iterations with them, questioning who you are, what kind of mother you are, what kind of now grandmother can I be present?
You go through it too, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
like you feel like you're going through it with them, and like,
Yeah, or you look back and you say, gee, I wish I had done this differently or that differently. And so I've always had, I believe to have someone to talk to, whether it's a coach or a psychologist, that's a gift, because you need that mirror. You need that way to do it. 12-step meetings are really helpful. Self-support groups. There's over 368 different self-support groups. Surely there's one that might fit your size.
you can find people. You can find people to be your community.
Yeah.
What your pathway of healing is. You can find people. You just have to kind of put yourself out there a little bit, and that's scary for people, but it's the saving grace. One of like, I have a therapist I see weekly still, and I have a coach that I'm working with for professional and also that other stuff. So I just think that I feel very blessed to have both of those. You know what I mean? Like, to keep me on track. Keep me growing.
I agree.
I'll tell you one thing that's been coming up for me, which is being very vulnerable, is being my age and admitting to myself that I'm not going to have more children. So, like, knowing that I'm done with having babies is like something I'm not willing to fully like internalize and accept. But it's where I am. I'm just not willing to fully, like, that's a tough one. It feels almost like morbid-ish to me.
That's so interesting. I'm a little bit age-wise for me, and when I think about the age you are, I'll be totally outlandish now.
Yeah.
So 50s are great for orgasms. So if you're worried about that, your sex life will be terrific. And the idea of having children, well, you could obviously adopt if you wanted to. It's not that you couldn't have children biologically, but there's other ways. And then what do you do with that love of children? How do you do that philanthropically or spiritually? There's no secret that I was very involved with Miriam's house in LA, which
closer to there. I go there all the time and hang out with them.
yeah, which there are children there that you have, there's different ways to mentor. But I'm not diminishing in any way, shape, or form.
No,
But there is, and you do come to grips with, I'm no longer childbearing. And what does that mean? What new adventure does that mean for me, as opposed to, and grieve that that's not possible anymore.
Yeah.
And take a look at what is your new possibility.
Well, I can tell you I have 2 bonus children now that live here that are 8 and 10, which are younger than my kids.
Oh, how great.
And I have puppy. So my dog Stella I've got my dog Stella a few years ago, and she had puppies after her second heat, after a dog that I fostered, the poor thing. So I have all the puppies still in my life. So they're kind of like I birthed them. So I definitely treat my dogs now like they're my babies. So I have found those, and then Sarah, who runs my company, she has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So like I went over there yesterday and hung out with them, played with them on the swings. So I get that. It's just an internal thing as a woman, just like acknowledging it and being like, that's like all that I've known for so long, but that phase is shifting. And now like what? Unleashing your potential. What's next?
And what's next for you? I think that's really where you have to go, and also embrace yourself and embrace how your feelings are. Yeah. Do never minimize a feeling. Never shove it under, because that's when we get into trouble. When we shove it under and say everything's okay. I love Stevie Wonder. When he wrote the song Everything's Okay, Uptight, we actually took the words and switched the meaning. Uptight meaning okay, but it didn't really mean okay. It meant things were awful. Things were really challenging.
Yeah. So you mentioned that with the music and the connection in the book. So you use like connection of music to like, can you explain that?
Well, a lot of like what obviously, if you don't know much about the Sunset Marquis, it's a rock hotel, and it's where Tina Turner, who I'm absolutely in love with, where on any given day you may see someone else. And I think what we have to do is let the music in. What sings to us? What are the melodies that play for us? And how do they affect you? So right now, I'll be honest, I'm just sitting here figuring out the audiobook, and the audiobook will either use one of 2 songs. Okay. One will be Proud Mary with Tina, which probably is what it's going to be, Rolling Down the River, or a song you may not know, but I certainly knew as a young girl, Helen Reddy, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, because we burned our... But music has a sensibility. If we take a look at it today, especially if I think of the Sunset Marquis, I also love country music. Why do I love country music? Because their car's broken down, they've had a fight, they've lost their money, they're drunk, they have a story to tell. Music tells story. And I guess because I'm thinking of Miriam's house and Miles' attics, and Miles is traveling around right now with Jelly Roll, I
saw him in a picture with Jelly Roll at a hot tub on Jelly's page, and I messaged him. I was like, "Are you in the hot tub with Jelly Roll?" And he's like, "Yes." He was like, "Yes, I'm in the hot tub with Jelly Roll right now."
Yeah. And so, but Jelly Roll has a great song out, if I can only remember the title of it right now when we're talking. Which is just about mental health and mental illness. And so music can take us to different places and maybe express our emotion in different ways and tell different stories. So that's when I say let the music in, and let the sounds of your life come in. Let the melodies you play. Think about that. And again, that could be, it could be almost anything depending on what your theme song is. I mean,
hip hop dancer, so my go-to was always hip hop and rap growing up. Even like now, if I'm wanting to like get myself going, I'll put my Tupac shirt on, like to represent my inner gangster. But then I also love, like, I'm upset, like I listen constantly to like Adele and Taylor Swift, because they're poetic in their love of talking about love.
Yeah.
And I feel deeply, and that like is and is so healing to me. Listen, like I used to think Taylor Swift just had like teeny bopper songs, but if you read her lyrics, she is a poet. She is like incredible. And Adele, just like, I mean, I went to her concert in Vegas, and she said hello, and I cried.
Oh my God, that's wonderful. But the other thing is, when we work in our field, just say you've done an intervention and you have to safe escort someone to treatment. Did you ask them, hey, what songs do you like? Because playing their songs helps soothe this transition. Everybody has a song, and if they don't have a song to sing, perhaps it will be. I mean, my husband's turning 80, and for him, it's all Frank Sinatra my way. Why? He put on Frank Sinatra concerts. There's no question that is him. For me, I'm just all over the place because I'm just very different. But the songs that I like, I mean, when I talk about Proud Mary, I was the first prom I ever went to. Tina Turner and I played.
Oh, wow.
So it's something in my soul.
Yeah. It's what you connect to. And like, and I used to be someone that said I liked everything but country. But in the past, like 5 years, I like a lot of country now. I like my boyfriend, he's loved Jelly Roll since way before he was famous. Like, I like a lot of the kind of the more modernish, I guess.
Sure.
Like, connect, like I certain. So I'm very open-minded with my music. Like you can take me to, if it's live, I'll go to anything. My dad was a big jazz person. My mom listened. I hear an older song and remember like being in my mom's car, going home from school. Like, you're right. It just has I mean, if you allow it in, some people don't want to feel the feelings of music. Like, I've met people that say that I just don't like music, and I'm like, I think that's because they don't want to connect.
And as far as the setting of the book, the Sunset Marquee is the home of Nightingale Studios. So when you think of all the people that played at the Troubadour, all the people that played in Hollywood, I mean, that was where they recorded. And we still do. It's still an active recording studio. So that's sort of a rock and roll kind of place. Probably more than country, but definitely rock and roll. But then now there's this mixture.
I love some good old rock and roll. So what else would you like to share with anyone about like the aging process, unleashing their potential? Like what's on your heart?
I think what's on my heart is for you to take a look, if you're going to get this book, whether you get it in hardback or on, is take a look and use the book to journal, because there's journal pages for you. And for you to ask questions, what is it that you want to do? How is it that you want to become? And what are some of the hiccups that you have to transcend, or that you want to go with? And where can you go for assistance? And what is your frame of mind? And how do you perceive yourself and your world? I think that's really when we take a look at, and also there's so many good places now that do integrative wellness as well. That how do I take care of myself physically, emotionally, consistent with my values, or spiritually? I mean, does that mean that you go for a regular checkup? Do you have blood work? What's your diet? How do you eat? Do you embrace who you are? Do you have to figure out, oh my God, that line appeared. What am I going to do with it? Or can I, and also think about legacy. Like I'm at the stage where I'm going to be 78 this week. Hopefully in our field, there might be a legacy. There's going to be a time, if I'm not valid anymore, it's not, and you guys are all, you're our future. So is there anything we can leave as legacy? Is there anything that we have that you don't need, that you can carry forward? I mean, that's the gift of Eric Erickson was a wonderful, wonderful theoretician. He came after Freud, and he had 8 stages of man. Sorry, he didn't know about women at the time. But what he said was when you're born, you have to have someone that has basic trust but what he said was in order to get basic trust, you have to have someone older that was walking around with ego integrity versus despair. And when I look back at my lifetime, I've been very, very lucky that mentors have come into my life. When my father died, there was Leon Rubenstein, who was a social worker who owned Camp Wood Echo. I got to go away to camp. I got to shoot a bow and arrow. I got to shoot a rifle in a world that was completely chaotic. When I went to graduate school, I had Dr. Glenn Hayworth. He was a chortle of a man, and yet he allowed me to string poetry, to do the same kind of crazy writing I'm doing now today. And he just recently died at 98, and I was the trustee of his estate. But you have someone that, is there some way, if it's worthwhile, to leave a legacy, to and maybe not, but that's what I think, we who are aging, and to allow new and novel ideas in.
And that's the thing, is it's going to change over time, right? Like what you're doing now for your mental health, your spirituality, and your passion and purpose, and that can take a left turn. Like I would imagine you're like this. You get like divine, kind of like you did with the book, like divine hits. Like I have to do this.
Yes.
Like I get those. Like I get them on. Like the decision to open a nonprofit when I had it came on a run. Like you have to do this, and I had the whole plan in my head, in my heart. That when I went on my own in August of 2019, I knew that it was too much by myself, and I knew I wanted to partner. And I thought of all kinds of people across the country, and it has to be Blake. Like a divine hit. Like I get divine, like clarity. Like if I allow myself to get the mess out of the head. So there's when you're connected to yourself, you can have some magic,
And I love what I'm doing. One of the things I'm doing now is I'm director of family programming for youth prevention mentors.
Yes.
And they're all, the CEO is 32, but really what it is, it combines 2 major grants that I had when I was at university. One was student to student, which is peer mentoring, which is efficacious across the board. And so much so that, I taught so many professionals, but it's great to have someone else who's a little bit older, who's a mentor, join up with you. You don't need someone my age for therapy, or, there's a way in. And then the other grant I had was a parent-based intervention to reduce high-risk problematic behaviors. So being the family whisperer, if ever someone said, gee, what did she do? She was a family whisperer who liked rock music. I don't know, who liked the Sunset Marquee, who wanted to do some other different things. That's a real fun thing, because they're our future. And you're our future. And there's so many now programs which really are a little bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
They're no longer just this cookie cutter.
And thank God, right? Like how many people, the things I've learned over the past decade that I've opened my heart and my mind to, that I used to be very black and white about, like I'm almost embarrassed that I was, but I also give myself grace and say, I just didn't know better. But I would have been able to support people that I lost in a much more loving, kind way. Like if I hear something about like somebody's struggling or having a hard time, like I would never repeat that. I would go to them and say, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need any support? But that's not kind of prevalent in our field.
That's right.
But what we should be doing, right, is taking care of each other and looking out for each other. And if somebody's hurting, it can happen to any one of us. We can all go through something at any time, and we should be more gentle and loving. But like you're saying, the programs and and the way we meet people where they are is so different and evolving, and it's beautiful. I think it's saving a lot more lives.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think that we've been rocked by COVID. Anxiety and depression is up. Young people have more anxiety and depression. And I think also the natural disasters, when I think we have just been hit with one natural disaster after the hurricane. This is your second hurricane. I mean, Asheville, Tampa,
I was
know.
raised here, so like if I get concerned, I tell people then you need to be a little. It's at the conference. Everyone's like, "You're Floridian." I'm like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Right now, just wait and let's see," because it could do anything. But I woke up that morning on Tuesday morning at like 7 with another direct hit. You need to get on the road and get the hell out of here. So I woke up my friend Essa and I was like, "We have to go now." And it was because I was worried about traffic. And then once I got home and settled, I was literally terrified for everybody else about getting out and getting home, that I was watching everyone's, making sure everyone made their flights, texting people. It was like the mother in me just came out and like, I'm safe. Is everyone else I was just with safe? Because it could be terrifying to be in a hurricane, especially not be from here. Like I've gone through Andrew, the one that tore apart Miami, had my son home in a hurricane who was a brand new baby, no power and flooding. I had my 19-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
4 years old and out of my mind, and I had a baby with no power. And he's somehow
Yikes.
And then and one thing too is like, managing, like I shared with you, like I've changed some of my upcoming travel because I have a young daughter in middle school. Like my son kind of coasted through, he's just very even keeled. But having a young girl is very different. She's very emotionally intelligent, very in tune with her emotions. And I need to be present more than ever through these times, high school, middle school. Like, was that like prevalent for you with your daughters? Like the high school, middle school, high school times? Like,
it was definitely chaotic. Definitely chaotic. Each one of them is so entirely different. And, some had big hiccups and others did not, but it was also, there was a lot of years apart from them. There's these 5 years difference from each one of them. So each one of them was an only child because I had
7 years.
There was 5 years apart, and from my youngest to my oldest is 10 years. So it was very chaotic. And I think I told myself the same thing I tell my families. You did the best that you could do with the resources you have, and now maybe you can learn how to do something a little bit better. Because certainly I always think also that we are different people, that each child has a different parent. Why? Because when I taught human behavior, I used to say that because your children are born in a different time. It might be a different economic, it may be a different marital relationship, it may be a different geographic location. And so even though they're in the same family, they've just had such different experiences with everything. And so I think that's
parented differently, right? Like my son and my daughter both need very different versions of me. Like my son needs a little bit of motivation. My daughter needs to kind of be like chilled out a little bit. She's like wants everything like me. So they need to be parented a little differently too. Like, and it shifts.
Absolutely. And I think that's the power of narrative and the Merriam, rewriting one's narrative. Because I guess if you wanted me to talk to you about aging, it's really the power of narrative. It's the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, where we are, that have a profound impact on how we experience it. I mean, I can read something that I wrote in the book. If we buy into the narrative of inevitable, and this is about aging, of inevitable decline, we're more likely to withdraw, disengage, and fulfill that prophecy. So again, if we just took that and said, what kind of parent? If we say we're not good, then we're going to go into, that negative self-prophecy. But yet, if we reframe aging, time of continued growth, exploration, contribution, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. And like, if we also learn to have compassion and forgiveness for those things that we have done, not within a 4-step, that we can help deal with our narrative, because who we were yesterday may not who we are today, and we are only human. So I like to work with clients to help them rewrite their personal narratives about aging, about who they were. And that really means challenging negative beliefs, not putting them under,
Absolutely.
and not realizing them. Okay, you creak and groan a bit. You have knee replacement. You have, you have to, you don't do the same things. You can't run 25 miles,
Right. It's kind of like going into we can victim ourselves, right?
Yeah,
And
you
it's
can't.
actually valid stuff, but we can choose what we do with it,
Yeah. And so, I think aging is essentially not about decline. And I know that's probably a radical statement, but it's about becoming. It's becoming is a continual growth, change, and self-discovery. Um, and every year brings new opportunities to learn. It's when you close yourself to learning, I think, that you really have a problem, and to become a better version of yourself, because we're always can be a better version of ourselves. And
my 40s the best. I really do. Like, I feel the most comfortable. Like, I don't want to be younger. I'm great with where I am, and that's a good place to be. Like, I love the 40s so far.
but yet you are rewriting your narrative, because you clearly said, I'm rewriting my narrative. I can no longer have children, and I need to grieve that.
Yeah.
I need to grieve that part of me. I need to grieve that part of, my body, biologically, emotionally, spiritually.
Right.
And now I'm doing, our perspective is going to shift, and your sense of purpose. You just told me you have a different, whether it's the doggies, the other children that are living there, or just being of service to others. And in truth, we do face maybe the loss of a loved one, or the death of a loved one, our partner, our spouse. I surely did that in my 40s. My first husband died suddenly, unexpectedly, when I was 42. That catapulted the world into an entirely different way.
Yeah.
And there definitely was a process where that just wasn't anything you could just put under the table. You had children, and everybody had differential reactions to death. But it also allowed me, I guess, like I love that saying, keep falling up, to learn how to fall down so I could fall back up. And now at 78, I'm looking through a different lens, which doesn't mean that there isn't these things ahead. They're different now. And, for those that are wondering, aging doesn't mean the end of your sexual self. You can still be very sexy. Sexy.
See pictures to come. They're coming. I saw one. I was like, "Woo, Louise, look at you guys."
Yeah. So, it can be.
I always push the professional sexy line. It's just who I am. It's my personality. Like, I would be professional, but it's just who I am. And I'm fine with that. I embrace it now. I don't try to tone it down. I just be who I am.
But you can be so many different things, and intimacy and pleasure still, remains possible. And so I remember, I never forget this. I was a very young social worker. I graduated my master's when I was 20. Wow. And in those days, you needed to have a social worker be in nursing home, in nursing homes.
Okay.
So I went to work at Wilson Manor, which was a nursing home. And I mean, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and really didn't think much about aging, because I was all 21 years old. I mean, forget it. That's not even in my frame. But I went to work as a consultant, and the nursing home had great big radio, a nurse station and everything. Well, good old Mr. Wilson, who had been a Hollywood something or other writer, anything. And this is a nursing home, so it'd be like, you'd be worried that they would get sick or something else. He was having a great time with one of the residents, and I remember the head nurse getting so upset. Well, probably because of when I think about it, I thought it was great because what did I know? I mean, I thought it was go for it. You two go get them. But they were worried about, well, would the children be mad that his parent was engaging in any kind of sexual activity, and they were so old and they were in this nursing home? Would it physically be okay? But then I thought, like, more power to you. And I was not popular with that thought, I have to tell you, but I always remembered that as a way in which, I sometimes when, say, aging, there's this stereotype that we're just going to be put in a closet and, you're supposed to knit or I don't know what, do things, but that you still, huh?
Cold plunge in the Atlantic Ocean. That's what you're supposed
Oh,
to do.
but you're still a living, breathing human person. And no, and so I take it with that kind of grain of salt that, and you've lived through so much. You've lived through a lot of hurricanes. Personally.
I've lived, I was telling somebody yesterday, I've literally lived, I'm still very young, but I've lived many lives already. Like, it's like insane. I just wanted to read this comment that someone said, age is just a number. You look beautiful, Louise. That was.
Oh, you're so sweet. But I just want to invite everybody to embrace their journey in all its complexity, to be open to who you are, to set audacious goals, audacity, and learn new things. I mean, whatever that is, what just be willing to learn and be willing to actually take critique and know that you don't know everything, because sometimes you think that, and just explore your own sexuality, explore what does that mean at this, and that you have capacity for growth and transformation at any age. So I always think if I'm dealing with someone, the best version of themselves is yet to come. And then I talk about putting your big girl panties on.
Yes, I told Sarah when I was ready, sitting here early, I sent her a text and said, "Ooh, look at me! I'm sitting here early like a big girl because I'm always like scrambling last. This is what I do."
Yeah, and don't be afraid to show the world who you are, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I guess that's the other thing, is because God, and don't, and understand that failure may be a gift. If you thought you had the dream job that you always wanted, and then I remember, I mean, I'm so grateful for the University of San Diego. Why? I came into our field really in my 50s, and I had been a social work professor. I developed the first graduate seminar on substance abuse in the country. I learned about interventions from the granddaddies, not from all the courses, from Frank Picard and Vern Johnson, and I did them on the side. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was because I wanted this big hunkin' grant that I left San Diego State and I went to University of San Diego, and I got $2 million grant on a parent-based intervention, and I fit in there like a sore thumb. They were going to fire me because I didn't know how to be an administrator, I think.
They think you were trying to be a change maker too, it sounds like.
Yeah. And so I left, and I'll never forget. I mean, I decided to call my company All About Interventions. Oh, I was so cool. But that was AAI, so I could be first in the Yellow Pages. Nobody knows what the frickin' Yellow Pages are today.
That's where I've found my
pages. Yeah, and so I got taken around. And it was that cataclysmic "I'm going to get fired" that set me off on this wonderful trajectory, because I just knew that nothing worked right, and I was along the way. Lucky people were there, and through there's been so many changes, so many iterations. good, bad. Some are really painful kinds of things. And maybe not everything looks better in retrospect, but I think the fact that I don't know that we get more than one chance around.
Right.
So, and then I always wonder, what are you waiting for? Is
Yeah.
there going to be something that's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And give yourself a little grace. Well, thank you for all that you contribute and your like desire to, lift people up. Like you've always been kind and compassionate, always teaching me things. And I love that when women in the field that I can continually learn from, and grow and try to take pieces of you and add it to me, like I'm all about strong, empowered women and learning from them. So thank you for what you add to my life and add to our field as a whole, and outside the field, everywhere. You're just contributing, and you have a calling and a desire within you to help. It's all to help people, right? Now it's to help people with it, because people struggle with it.
Yeah.
People give up. People say, "Oh, this is it. I'm done. Like, I know, what else am I going to do?" And no, I had my mom's friend yesterday. She's almost 80 as well, and she's like, "I have to buy this property, and I have to make this small homes and make a development." She's like, "I just have a calling. I have to do it." And I'm like,
Good for her.
I love
She
that.
needs a copy of this book when it comes out. And good for you, because you are doing some really innovative types of conferences. The skiing is fabulous. I'll be at your winter summit, which I'm excited to be. Even though I don't ski, you can get me on ice skates, but we're not going to go skiing since I've never been on a pair of skis. I don't think I'm ready to do that one. But a cold plunge in the snow, or a hot tub in the snow, that would be
The snow is the best.
is the best. So I mean, I'm glad that you're taking those kinds of things and doing a leadership conference. I think that's very important.
Thank you. I just want to try to, obviously take what I've learned from my mentors, but also shake things up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I'm, like I remember some people that taught me were like, I won't take a client on if they're not, like, as a coaching or case manager, if they're not willing to be completely this, and this. And like, I'm happy to say that, like, I will. If somebody just has some kind of desire, like, let's figure that out and work with that, with the clinical team, with the psychiatrist, all of that. Like, I'm willing to try things outside the box, and also put myself out there in a way that, like, I had no choice, because obviously I started my business right before a pandemic. Place with social media. So people think I'm very far ahead of the game, but I really just happen to have no choice. Sorry about the scratching. My dog is going ballistic in her thing. And she's medicated. So it's not working.
It's okay.
Very OCD with me. Like, she's like attached. I have to work on that with her, but it's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. No, it's like Velcro. They love us, our animals. I have two doodles that just happen to be outside, but they're wonderful.
They're my babies. But
Yeah.
now she's being a brat. She wants out.
So tell me what's next for you.
What's next for me is actually today I'm having my second call with my TEDx team that's helping me write and curate my TED Talk. And then is going to be pitching me to 40 outlets a month. Or 40.
Beautiful.
So something like that, because it's a whole nother world that I don't know. And so I know my skill sets. And so once it's figured out, I know what to do with it. But I need people in a team to help me curate it and put it together. Also, working on a book. We don't know exactly. It's not fine yet, because there's so many ideas and I could go so many ways with it. But I'm also working with the team to help me with that. So those are kind of my next things. And public speaking outside of behavioral health, because there's so much I've learned in this field that the rest of the world doesn't know. Like, it's common stuff to us, like go to therapy, go coaching, go to treatment, go to a ONSO, there's a whole world out there that knows nothing about what we know. And I feel called to go into that world more. Like, I'm involved in the chamber here, the Boca Chamber, and I'm the only person that does what we do there. Like, it's nice. So I'm kind of like reaching out to new things.
Well, that's exciting. Breaking the glass ceiling in new ways. That's wonderful. I'm very excited for you. And I so look forward to hearing about your adventures.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much. If afterwards, if you could put the link, or if you can send me the link, I'll put the link for your book when it comes out on here, because this is going to
Yay.
be on LinkedIn. This will still stay on Facebook, and then on the Instagram is the only place that won't stay. So we'll add the link when you're.
So right now, my understanding is because there is going to be like, I think 4 different links. Today, I think the Kindle link will be up. It's going to be available at Barnes & Noble. It's going to be available at Amazon. It's going to be hard copy, soft copy, and then Kindle. And then there's going to be an audio version as well, but not, I would say it's 3 to 4 weeks away for all those vehicles. But I do know, I was told this morning that Kindle was up. It was going to be up. So as soon as I get that one,
send the link, and I'll go back in and put it in here so everybody can buy the book.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited, and I guess I'll get to see you in March, if not sooner. You're not going to London, are you?
I am not sure yet because of my things with my daughter. I'm still kind of.
You take good care of your daughter. I mean, this will be what I'm, and there is one thing I'm very excited about. I'm going to be speaking at the Masters in London next year, and it was just a wonderful thing. I'll just add it really quickly because it does have to do with aging. I had never met Araminta Johnson, who puts on the Master Series, and she didn't know me and I didn't know her. And, she asked me what I was passionate about. And she asked me because she was thinking, you don't know anything about trauma, which I thought was a pretty funny question when she asked me. I went, oh, I don't know who told you that, but I think I was born on a fault line of trauma. And so I was talking about portraiture, the research methodology I use, and widowhood, because I was a very young, and the fact that I worked with the New York Fire Department during 9/11. Yes. And so part of my talk, she invited me to speak next year at the Master Series. And so I'm going to be speaking really on some women's issues, portraiture, sudden death, grief and loss, and aging. So I'm very excited, but that's not till next October.
Awesome. Very, very cool. I love that. Congratulations. Yeah, I love, I've seen that one, and that definitely interests me. And I do love Lee's event, and I did sponsor it this year. I'm just trying to figure out, navigate things with travel and kids and stuff. Yeah. I can do it all that I thought I could do. Because last year,
it's a long way to go. So really, I mean, I had just been to Oxford for the first time and spoke there, but I just actually introduced Max and Jack and YPN. I just was like Vanna introducing them. But
ladies, I just realized I'm almost 60 almost 60 a few weeks ago, turning 59 in November. This is super helpful.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so excited. And you can always reach out to me, and you can reach out to Amanda. Easily found on my website.
Well, thank you so much. How can people find you, Louise?
Oh, well, for a good time, I answer my own phone. You can call 619-507-1699. My major website that I'm on is allabout-interventions.com. You can also find me on youthpreventionmentors.com, and you can find me on the Balance group in Zurich and Mallorca. But for most of it, it's really all about interventions. And I pick up my own phone. I don't have an answer machine. And I will get back to you. So I just am so grateful to all of you, and for you all to keep on growing and keep on unleashing your potential.
Love that. And Louise writes amazing newsletters. Like, I don't read a lot of people's emails, but I always read them.
I do.
She's really good with it. Really on point, very cutting edge, very fresh information. So
yeah, no, I write a newsletter every week. Last week it was really interesting because I wrote on grandparents. Yeah. And a lot of grandparents are raising children whose mothers have had addiction. The other part is like, hey, grandma, how come you're drinking so much? How come you're falling down? And it's never too late to intervene.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When someone calls me up and says, well, they're just too old, I go, no, that is so untrue.
Never. I feel like never. I mean, we've had 80 something year old clients.
Yes, absolutely.
It's about finding peace and some passion and purpose, and living a life that you feel good about.
Well, what a joy to be with you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Where do you live now? What part of California?
I live in a place called Rancho Santa Fe. It's it's outside of San Diego.
Awesome. And where were you in COVID time?
In COVID time, I was I was in the desert and I was in Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey. That's where I think of.
Yeah.
I think of you in Marina Del Rey, but now I'm going to think of you in this place, the Sunset. What is it called? The Sunset?
The Sunset Marquis is a hotel in West Hollywood. Yeah.
Forever. Now I have to go check it out. I might come to LA. I have an aunt that has a house out there, so I'm due to come. So I'll let you know.
Well, I know we're going to have a book event and I'll invite you to it there, but it's probably not. We're setting a date in January.
And congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award. I know we sent a page just in support.
Thank you so much. That is so thoughtful, and what a great organization. And that was 4 days of actually it was very hard to talk because it was so humbling. And so heartwarming.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Face to face in the version that we can do right now. All right, everybody, have a great day. You can find me Amanda Marino Official and nextlevelrecoveryassociates.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Take good care and keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring change as you do it well.
Thank you so much. Hold on. I thought it was ending on that thing, but I did it wrong.